Hi, welcome to today's Leaders in Mental Wellness and Diabetes, where you will hear insights from the top minds in the world of diabetes care, hosted by Dr. Char.
Hello, hello, hello. Today, Cheryl Farliy, she is a passionate health and wellness educator at the Way to Wellness in Manchester, Maine. She promotes public health education, and she's particularly interested and invested in type 2 diabetes and obesity awareness. Cheryl, it is a pleasure to meet you. Welcome to this podcast.
Thank you, Dr. Char. Thank you for the invitation. And I consider it an honor and a privilege to be able to share with your listeners my story, or I should say our story, because I believe we're all one big family. So
I do too. And I'm so interested. I understand that you conquered late stage Lyme disease. So my first interest is knowing how that illness transferred over into our world, because when I see diabetes, I'm type 1, but when I see that you're particularly working with type 2 and obesity awareness, my goodness, that is just my whole world. So how did you get from that illness over to us? Are you in any way or your family diagnosed with diabetes?
Yeah, so let me just give you, I'm going to back up a little bit and I'll give you a very brief history. So essentially, as a child, let me just give you this, I'll segue from this into what I'm going to say, but my dad ran Jack LaLanne's gyms or health clubs in California.
Exciting.
It was very exciting. I should have thought to grab the picture. I don't want to jump up right now, but I have a picture that's very precious to me of me and my brothers and I with Jack LaLanne in like 1969 in one of his health clubs in California in LA. But, you know, that was sort of, I believe, very foundational for me, because that was my exposure as a young girl to health and wellness. It really did. He made a very strong impression upon me as a 12-year-old. Seriously. And then I ended up working. I've been teaching exercise since I was 18. I still teach exercise. Even now. I'm 62, but I still teach 4 classes a week. I teach water aerobics. But, aside from that, I would say in the mid 80s, my husband and I learned about the importance of food as medicine or nutrition. So add on to the exercise foundation, then an understanding or an appreciation of how much what we eat impacts our health for either good or bad. And so we began to get educated. We attended classes, workshops, seminars. And then once we had a foundation, we started doing small classes. And eventually we moved to Maine from Maryland, because we're originally from Maryland. But we moved to Maine in 96 to work in a wellness center. It was an inpatient wellness center. And we had people that had heart disease, cancer, mental health issues, autoimmune problems, you name it, cardiovascular disease that would come there just to get a new start on their health. Basically, we would put them on, we changed what they ate and their very simple lifestyle changes, and we would see their bodies self-heal, literally. While we were there, we were invited by another wellness center on the West Coast that had these 3-day reversing diabetes naturally and losing weight seminars. So I was invited, because I did cooking classes, to be the cooking instructor for these 3-day seminars. So they would fly me around in different parts of the eastern part of the country. And so during that time, and I was a volunteer for 9 years with this organization, I witnessed many, many people.
How far back was that?
Well, I would say I started helping them in like 1997, 98.
So reversing diabetes goes back
that far,
at least in small language, but it was already being addressed that early.
Yes, the whole food is medicine concept. So I had the privilege of working with some phenomenal physicians. So they would basically have these events. They'd have it at a conference center or a venue where people would fly in. They would stay in this place, would usually be a lovely conference center. And they ate what we put in front of them for 3 meals a day. We walked them after each meal. We did what we call digestive walks. Now, type 1 is different. Obviously, that is your pancreas doesn't function. But even with the type 1 diabetic, what we saw was that their blood sugar was controlled better. Their bodies, it actually saw a response. With the type 2, we would see their sugars drop right away, overnight. Within 24 to 48 hours, their sugars would start dropping. And so after 9 years of doing that, I became so excited that when the couple that were the head of this organization retired, they stopped those seminars. And I have to tell you, I literally cried. Our last seminar we did in upstate New York, I remember crying though a lot coming home, because I felt like, wow, we're just scratching the surface, and this information really needs to get out in a big way to the masses. So then I started, when I came home, I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to do a TV show. So we did a TV show for a few years, and that was great, but we still only reached people within our state of Maine. So then I ended up working with a lady who worked in media. And so she came up with the idea to create the program, the Way to Wellness, or the 10-day program, which we have. These are the hard copies of the books. That's the 10-day meal plan. And then this is the solutions book, which is the medical complement to the meal plan that explains in very easy to understand layman's English terms what causes diabetes in the first place, how does it happen in our bodies, and how this approach to treating it actually works. Very, very easy, simple is what we wanted for the masses. And so this went on national television, and initially as an infomercial, believe it or not. It's a long story, but we had a Fortune 500 company that invested in our program, because like I said, all I could think about was, all right, so let's say someone never had the opportunity to attend a wellness center, which costs thousands of dollars. But still I say, well, you cannot put a price tag on your health. You can't. Or let's say they couldn't go to one of those 3-day seminars. What could we create that people could follow, just a roadmap that would get them from point A to point B? And so that's essentially what our program is all about. Now we have it available. The same thing is available online in digital downloadable format. And so you get the meal plan book, the diabetes solutions book, which is the educational part of it. And then we also have a whole library of videos where we filmed, I show you in Food Network style. It was professionally produced. It is just class A production, how to make every single recipe. And what we did also was that with keeping, we wanted to make this as simple as possible. So we even tried to create the shopping list. So at the very back of the 10-day meal plan book, you have a complete shopping list. So we tried to take that step of the workload out for anyone. And we also wanted to make sure that people could go to any big box grocery store. So we went to Walmart, to our local Walmart. So you could get every single ingredient for all of the 10 days for each recipe. And most of the recipes would feed 4 people. So a lot of times you could either cut the recipes in half if it's just 2 of you, or just split it up and you would have maybe leftovers, So basically that was what happened, was we just wanted to come up with a program that people could follow. Well, now going back to the Lyme disease. So when we were working on this project, I began to get sick. like weird. I was having some very unusual symptoms like migratory joint pain, weakness in my arms, and numbness, like almost, which I know you understand, like neuropathy. I was having like pins and needles. Then I started having neurological problems like short-term memory, extreme fatigue. And it just seemed to cascade and get worse. So then I finally found out I had late stage chronic Lyme disease. So what happened was once we had finished this whole project in my body, because it was a year and a half of very, very intense work, but it was worth it because we had this wonderful program that would help the diabetic community. But then my health had deteriorated to the point where I was having seizures because they had gone into my brain. It's a virus or it's a pathogen that crosses the blood-brain barrier. So they had gone into my brain. They were in every organ system of my body. But I had lost my speech. I couldn't even talk. And I ended up in a wheelchair. So between having seizures, not talking, and not being able to walk, I believed I was dying. And my husband, we were on a mission to find where I could get help. And it was a God thing because some friends of ours in our church had, some of their family members had gone to a clinic out west. So I ended up going to this clinic and I was treated there for 5 weeks. It cost about $20,000, but it saved my life. I would not be here right now talking with you, Dr. Char, if I had not gotten to that clinic. So my takeaway from that, Dr. Char, was that I would never, ever take my health for granted, ever. It was a very humbling experience. And if anything, what it taught me was to be more empathetic towards people.
Oh, yes.
So now when I stand up and I'm teaching a class or I'm working with people, even if it's one-on-one, I feel connected to people at a much deeper level. And because I know you work in mental health, that was another thing. Lyme disease causes psychiatric symptoms. Like I said, they go into the blood-brain barrier. So I had anxiety, I had depression, I had obsessive compulsive disorder. It literally destroyed every part of my life. I had no life. And so even that aspect of it, it's just, I will never forget any of the experience. So now I look at life differently and I look at people differently.
And since you became whole, you just have gone back to what you had already done for years. Exactly. And just started working. That makes total sense now. I couldn't figure out the overlay of that. And that is awesome. I actually have done what I do for 30 years. I still am in private practice and do that, but I'm working to put mine online and not as in depth in all of the places you've already been. But I can tell you that I do not take for granted my understanding of the work you've placed there. Because what I'm doing with anxiety through all the areas of mental health and mental illness issues, I believe anxiety with diabetes patients is, well, it's prevalent anywhere. But so I'm creating an online a program that can be online as well to reverse anxiety. We don't want to walk where we don't have to walk. We want to be whole. And I was taught and for years help people manage anxiety. And I don't want that. And you didn't go somewhere and spend $20,000 to manage Lyme disease.
Right.
You went and spent and I'm using that because it is expensive, but you did whatever it took. You left your home, your environment, and you decided that you were going to get well, and you did. I mean, that's exactly what I believe we're coming to right now, don't you? I believe this. I don't know if I call it the younger generation, but the more knowledge that I believe that people want holistic. They want to be well. They want to understand deeper. They want to go to the core. I think we're getting to a place to where now what you've been doing for years is going to pay off and I don't mean payoff in just monetary value, but it is going to absolutely be at its best place. Some might say, oh, you did that 5 years ago. You did that 10 years ago. Is that out of date? I believe you've been preparing for this day because now you're in a place where you can help so many people, and you're not having to do what I'm having to do to create it. You have it there. So woo, 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 you go, girl.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Char. Well, it is, I said, it just, I think about which you said, managing anxiety, but also you're right. You are right. I thought I'm not going to die. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get better. But what I do is I also use that when I'm teaching people, because I just want to stop for a moment and talk about, well, what I call mainstream medicine, or how we have been treating. We're treating sickness with drugs. And I'm not saying, there is a place for that. It's like if we didn't have drugs, we'd be in a whole heap of trouble. But at the same time, I think that drugs have been overused. And what my whole thing, my takeaway from working with the people for 9 years was like watching people get off their medications. It's empowering. It's like when people realized, hey, if I just change what I eat and start walking, I can actually reverse my diabetes. Well, that's very empowering for people, very empowering. And so I say let's get off of the conveyor belt of manage and control with the type 2. Now, I'm not saying every single person, each person is different and unique. They're depending upon their pancreas and how well it's functioning. But in many cases, most people are able to eat, if they don't come off their medication completely, they are able to reduce the amount of medications that they're taking, their need for medication. So that's a win-win, plus you're feeling better, and that's the thing. How can you put a price tag on your health? And as Dr. Howell would say, the author of the Solutions book, it's not just how long you live, but it's how you're living those years. It's not just the years, the amount of years, but it's the life in your years. And Jack LaLanne used to say that too. And it's so true. We want a quality of life, not just a long life. Long life is great, but how are we feeling while we're living that life?
Oh, that is so good. There are two things that I'm so interested in asking you about. In this program that you work with diabetes patients, and you talk about, I wrote it down, what kind of digestive walks? How does I'm sure it impacts the obesity management or whatever it is that you do, but how does the digestive walks, like my walk in the morning is 3 miles right now, which I'm kind of proud of, but 3 miles, I just walk. So what if somebody is just walking, and what could we do? What tip could you give them? And is that in the program as well, to teach people how to do digestive walks?
Yes, it is. I talk about that. There's on the website, there's a couple videos. I even have one for seated exercises. Some people, my whole thing is, listen, just move. Just move. Get the blood flowing, The 80% of your success in healing and allowing the body to self-heal is going to come from what you're putting in your mouth. The other 20% comes from the exercise. So the lion's share really is in the food. But what we do is they've found that by taking a short digestive walk immediately following a meal does two things. One, it aids in digestion. It actually helps with your food. And we're not talking like a brisk walk. We're just talking a leisurely, a casual walk for 5 minutes. That's nothing. 5 minutes, anybody can do that. So as soon as we finish a meal in our classes or our seminars, we get people up and we take a walk for 5 to 10 minutes. So we teach people that has to become a habit, like brushing your teeth. So if you just do those shorter walks right away after you finish eating, it will help, one, with lowering your blood sugar, but also with the weight loss. And then if you want to add more to that and walk further, that's fantastic. And if you want to add more by doing exercise like weight bearing exercises, that's even better, because as we age, we need strength training. We also know science has shown that by doing weights, even just light weights, it helps in increasing our bone density, which, is a concern as we age, with osteoporosis.
Well, I had to go back earlier this year because it was time. I'm 64. They said I need a bone density test. My new insurance, that's what part of the plan was. I didn't know it was time. I didn't know they required it, but here I go off for a bone density test.
Right.
And at 64 with diabetes, almost 50 years, my bones are better than women younger than me. So I have not done everything right through the years.
Wow.
I absolutely have gained and lost in excess 3 different times. So I don't by any means advocate doing that.
Right,
but I also want to be encouraging to people that says, when we have fallen, we have failed. These bodies are so miraculously made that what I've done well and my getting up, dusting the seat of my britches and going again over and over and over again has me in better health than in worse health. And so I was quite pleased with that. The last time I was at a foot doctor, he said, my feet are perfect. And there's just no tingling, no neuropathy signs.
Wonderful.
Just many things I can tell you that I'm grateful for. And I think that it's very important to say, I've not been perfect in that journey. Now, I'm not proud of that. I certainly don't advocate that, but I'm saying we are so full and so much. I say we're full of ourselves, and people think, well, yeah, you've been that a little much in your life. But the truth is, we're so full of ourselves, we have enough to be the best we can be. And that's all that's expected of us. We should not expect and compare ourselves with somebody else's place. But you have some keys and some answers. Would you please excuse my little puppy? She is, I'm like, I've texted my husband. Here I am podcasting. She's over here barking beside me. I'm going to get her. Hold on just a minute.
No worries, Dr. Char. You take your time, dear. No worries.
This is why it's live. She's sitting over here barking, and I'm like, what do I do?
She is adorable.
What do I do now? What do I do now? But anyway, it is time that we have all the knowledge. Now, here's the other thing. We have so much knowledge that it's important to me that I find people that I admire and respect, love what they do, and that's who I want to push out there so that people can have more than my perspective, but so that there's good sound advice that we know is science, science covered, it's true, it works, but more than that, that it's not just traditional in the sense of if a doctor says it, then that makes it true. No more is that accurate than it is accurate for everybody we listen to online. So thank you for what you do. Now, what I want to know is, you were on TV, Jack LaLanne. Oh my goodness. You were on TV with your program. What are you doing now? And how can people, you've told us how they can get to you. And before we close this, I want to be able to have you say that again, because that is wonderful. But I want to know, from TV that was, it sounds like, tell me what you're doing currently and how people can can learn from you?
Absolutely. Well, besides going to the website and just getting the online 10-day program, they can do that, certainly. But what my husband and I have been doing is we do our seminars. Okay, we have but now they're webinars because of COVID. Obviously, our last trip, we went to India right at the beginning. By the way, diabetes is a pandemic. It's everywhere. There isn't a place on this planet where diabetes hasn't affected the lives of people. And that is largely due to the fact that the standard American diet has made its way around the world. Okay. And we know, just because of traveling a little bit, we've been to the Caribbean, we've done diabetes reversal seminars down there, and we went to India right when COVID was first coming on the scene. So we went over and we got back. But after that, we've been doing webinars now. So I would say that if people are interested, and perhaps what we could do is support one another, Dr. Char. I love the fact that you are dealing with the mental health aspect of this, because that in of itself is a whole, there's a stigmatism, obviously, with that, and it's like a double whammy. People think, well, I've got diabetes, that's, like a stigmatism. I've got mental health issues, and that's so it's like all about helping people. How can we help people to get better? That's the bottom line. We want to do all that we can. So I would say that if people are interested in going through when I say our online program, and I'm talking aside from the books, the 10-day program, if they would like to go through our seminar series, which would now be a webinar, they should just reach out and let us know, because we've done some webinars. We did one actually for the Caribbean, for Barbados. We did one this past winter. We had over 200 participants that went through it. Yes. So that is one way. In other words, I would encourage them to get our program, our online program, but also we would be delighted to do classes with people. So that's something we'll be doing in the future, is online webinars. And certainly if people, and aside from that, then you form sort of a support group or a community.
Sure.
Because, and this is the thing, what we've taught people, this is what we teach people, the principle of once you have experienced, once you've received, and your health has been restored, that's a gift. So now we want you to share what you've learned with other people, because I believe that is one way of helping someone to stay on track, because it gives you sort of, in a sense, of responsibility and accountability, because you're sharing what you've just learned. It's like that old saying of give a man a fish and you feed him for a day, teach him how to fish and he can eat for his life. So yeah, so we would welcome webinar participants, and then from the webinar then to have like an ongoing monthly support group or community after that,
And where is this radio station?
Okay. Right. So the radio, so this is something I was asked to do. I've been a volunteer for a station here in Maine. It's a locally owned station. It's a nonprofit, listener-supported station, but we have listeners also outside of the state that listen online. Now, it is a Christian radio station, so I'm a volunteer there. And I help the owner or the founder of the station. He started it 40 years ago. We have like 1 million listeners in the state of Maine. And I do my own program, but I use that also as a platform for teaching health. I just came from there, and believe me, I'm always teaching about, all of the health principles that we teach in our classes. I use the airwaves to just get information out to the masses about very simple things they can do to help with their elevated blood sugar. We talk about the digestive walks.
Well, what's the address
What's
that
the
we could
address?
go online?
Yes, absolutely. So you would go to worshipradionetwork.org is the website. And the station, they have 3 stations under that. They have Worship FM. Then they have what's called God's Country. That is the station that I am on. And then they have the Era, which is for children. So I am on God's Country, but I'm on Sundays and I'm on Thursdays. I was just there. I do a program from 11 to 1 every Thursday, and I'm on every Sunday from 4 to 6.
And what's the time zone there?
Eastern. This is the Eastern time zone, Eastern Standard Time.
Okay, let me say that back to you, and then we're going to jump off here, and everybody's going to come listen.
Oh,
okay,
wonderful.
So we go online and we find worshipnetwork.org, and we can find you under God's Country.
God's Country, yes.
And
yes.
then we're going to do that at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on Thursdays and on Sundays.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. That is amazing. Do you have children?
Yes. We have 3 children. They're all, and they were brought up, they were raised eating a healthier diet, and we would drag them around with us and when we did our cooking classes and stuff. But it's just wonderful. And we have grandchildren too, of course, and our kids have ended up, our oldest is a personal trainer, and he loves what he does. Our daughter is an ICU nurse. And then our youngest son right now, he works also, and he was working in the medical field, and currently he's working from home. But yeah, it is a blessing. I just want to share something. So I want to share, if you don't mind, quickly, just a success story. So when we went to the Caribbean and we met with these lovely people, there was a lady who was in a wheelchair. And she had already had parts of her foot amputated. She couldn't stand, she couldn't walk. So I stayed back. When my husband would go and walk with the rest of the participants, I stayed behind with her, and I did seated exercises with this lady. Well, when we left Barbados, we stayed in touch with the people. We did continuing ongoing support. Long story short, after a year, she stayed the course. She ended up reversing her diabetes. She's now an educator herself. I think she graduated from nursing school, and she no longer is in a wheelchair.
So outstanding.
Yes, it is outstanding. And that's just one story. That is one.
That is amazing and wonderful.
Yes.
Kudos to her for the work, finding you to help her learn.
Yes.
Understanding the why behind the what and the how to.
Yeah.
All of those things and pieces you put together. I honor you. I so honor you. Thank you for joining me today.
Well, Dr. Char, it has been my pleasure. And if you don't mind, I will just say it's Worship Radio Network, not just worship.org. Okay. So it's the words Worship Radio Network altogether.org. And if the folks are interested in, let me give you my email address. Should they want to get in touch with me, they can reach me at, my name is Cheryl, CHERYL @CherylFarliy.com. And the website for the 10-day online program is just my name, www.CherylFarliy.com.
www.CherylFarliy.com.
And that's Cheryl with a C.
Okay. All right. We're going to be in touch. I was going to say in my wonderful little Southern dialect.
I love it.
I just about said, we're going to be in touch, little girl.
How'd you know I'm short? I'm not even 5 feet.
when it feels warm and fuzzy to me, that kind of stuff just rolls out. I don't mean to be less than professional, and I certainly don't mean to be condescending, but I mean that with the best of heart.
Well, Dr. Char, I do need to mention one last thing too. So I do a show on that radio station called the You Need to Know program. Now, I would like to interview you on the You Need to Know program. Now, it won't be video, it would just be audio, but I would be honored because I would love for you to come on and share your story and what you're doing.
I would love that.
It would be a blessing to the listeners.
I would love that. I would love that. I'm working real hard. Somebody said to me a while back, I've been doing this for 30 years, but this online stuff, learning how to turn a computer on was an effort. And so doing podcasts, are you kidding me? And little 30-second videos.
Yeah.
But anyway, somebody said to me, what are you going to do? Oprah, everybody knows Oprah. Everybody knows Dr. Phil, but who knows Dr. Char? So this is my little team's effort to make me a community and all those videos. So I would so be honored, and that would expand what I'm hoping to do for you. That would expand my little community. And together we are helping others.
That's right. You said it, sister. A rising tide floats all boats, right?
So good. So good.
Yeah.
Well, now that I'm ready to close this out,
yes,
the air conditioner quits going on and off. Tia stops barking. And now I'm ready to.
Now you're ready.
Now I'm ready to close. It has been, didn't I say casual conversation?
Yeah, well, I love it. It's the best kind. It's the best kind.
So perfection, I didn't claim to start with, right?
Oh, you did an awesome job. You're going to have an amazing podcast. You are.
Well, you are doing great. And I'm so interested to go find your program. And I want to add some digestive walks to my day, because my early morning walks, I've not had anything to eat. So, so I'll start trying to add that into my busy schedule as well. But thank you so much. I look forward to hearing from you. I will text over my phone number, and we'll do this again.
All right. Let's stay connected for sure.
You.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Dr. Char. Nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you.